Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's presentation with Amy Krasner. She will be discussing how to grocery shop on a budget for healthy, delicious, and nutritious foods. And as you may know from Amy's previous presentation, she is a certified clinical nutritionist and holistic health chef. So she will be walking through, based on her experience, some tips on how to go healthy grocery shopping. And I cannot wait for today's presentation with Amy. So we hope you all had a great, wonderful holiday weekend and really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us for this presentation. If you have any questions throughout, please feel free to type comments, questions, anything throughout the presentation into that chat box to our presenter, Amy. And without further ado, I will pass the presentation over to Amy. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Heather. And I'm really excited about this topic today because it is something that can be really challenging. The first part of it is just grocery shopping can be overwhelming. And then the second piece is the cost of eating healthy, and that's what we're going to dive into today. So thank you so much for joining me, and I'm excited to be guiding you through the presentation today. And let's get started. So please make sure to take a second to look through this disclaimer. Basically, the information today is the purpose is for it to be educational, and it's not meant to replace any advice from your doctor or medical provider. So if you have any medical conditions, please make sure to consult with your doctor. All right. So here's what we'll be going over today. We're first going to talk about some hidden costs of cheap food. And there are a lot of hidden costs of the way that our food system is providing lots of inexpensive food, but at the cost of some health risks as well. So we'll be going into those today. I'm going to teach you 12 tips for budget shopping, things that you can start to use right away to help to cut your bottom line and still eat healthy, but reduce your cost. We're also going to talk about organic, which is a big buzzword that can sometimes be misunderstood. We're going to talk about, is it worth it to buy organic? Should you be spending money on it? And what is the benefit if we are going to buy organic? And then the last piece we'll go over is how to reduce overwhelm when you're in the grocery store, which is a really big piece of things because when we are feeling overwhelmed, it's really hard to take action. So we really want to give you some tips to start taking action and feel confident in your food choices. All right. So as I mentioned, there are many different hidden costs of inexpensive food. And what we're finding, which is, not at fault to the consumer, it's more about the food industry, is that a lot of cheaper foods, things like cereals and pastries and things that are more packaged are less expensive than buying fresh produce, fresh real food. So it's no wonder that it's easier to buy those foods when they're cheaper. Now, just because they're cheaper doesn't mean that they're good for us. And the cost that we don't see is that when we're eating foods that have processed ingredients, chemicals, pesticides, ingredients that our body really doesn't recognize as food, then what happens is we start to have malfunctions. So the example that I like to give is that if you are driving a car that requires fuel that requires, let's say, 91, and you're filling it up with 83. So it requires a higher quality of fuel to function. So if you're filling it up with a lower quality fuel, it will still run, the car will still go, but along the way there's going to start to be issues. And that's the same thing with our bodies. So our body as humans is designed to eat foods that have nutrients, nourishment that come from the soil and from the earth. That's what our body runs on. And so we need to make sure that we're giving it the fuel that it knows how to use properly. Now, when we start to get into packaged and processed foods, a lot of the ingredients are created in laboratories. They're created by science. And even though there's a lot of science behind them, it doesn't mean that they are good for our health. And so what we're finding is that in these factories, and in the labs, they are creating these foods that are hyper addicting. They're very salty, they're very sweet. They make our palate really want it. And they're also making them for really inexpensive prices. So we start to eat them because they're less expensive. It's easier to spend money on that. We want to spend money in other places maybe. And then the cost is our health. So, eating one cookie or, crackers or chips every now and then is not that big of a deal. But what happens is when we're eating that over and over again, day in and day out, things start to malfunction. And really your health is your biggest asset. Your health is the most important thing because we can't do anything without our health. So the hidden cost of cheaper food that I see in my practice and we're seeing in the medical field and in the wellness field is that there's more medical visits when you're not feeling well, when your immune system's run down, when you're having chronic health issues. There's a lot of medical costs that go into that. And so you have your copay. You also sometimes have a lab bill if insurance doesn't cover all of your lab fees. You've got the cost of prescription medications. Even though you have insurance, buying them over and over again, there is a cost for that. There's also a lot of side effects that can come with prescription medication, so that's a hidden cost as well. When you have a medical condition like diabetes or heart disease, health insurance rates increase, or if you're trying to get into a new health insurance, you are having an increase in your rate that you're paying. Surgeries, if your disease or illness gets to the point of surgery, as you know, as nurses, there's a lot of cost to that as well, both financially and then also emotionally when things get to that point. When we're not feeling our best, oftentimes we have to call out sick days. We have lower productivity at work, fatigue, feeling tired a lot, and depression. And these are the things that aren't on the price tag in the store, but eventually, even though you're spending less money on food, you may be spending more money on your health because you're not getting the nutrients that we need. And the reason why I say this is because there's tons of studies that show that nutrition and lifestyle changes can help to prevent diabetes, heart disease, and even in some cases cancer. And so there's things that we can do about this in the way that we eat to help prevent these things from happening, or at least to lower our risk. So that your health is in your hands. It's also in your wallet, something to consider as well. So there are hidden costs by not investing in real food. So I like this little saying, your body will be around a lot longer than that expensive handbag, so invest in yourself. And I really do see this a lot. People say they don't have enough money to spend on healthy food, or they don't have enough money to improve their health, but then spending money prioritizing on other things like maybe going to the movies or a concert or buying material things. And while I'm not saying that you should not do those things, it's just important to start to look at what are your priorities. If you go through and look through your bank account statement at the end of the month and just mark off how much money you're spending on things that are accessories or things that aren't essential to your well-being, if you're saying that you don't have money to spend on your health, which in that case you may not, that might be the truth. But I also want to have a reality check and show you that there are a lot of times where we choose to spend money on other things. And the truth is that, the handbag's great, but you can't enjoy it if you're not healthy. And, you can't enjoy the concert if you're not healthy and things like that, even traveling. So just keep that in mind as we go along. I also want to teach you how to get the most bang for your buck. So if you are spending money on healthy food, I want to make sure that you're getting the most nutrients that you can get. So what I'm talking about here is that for every dollar that you spend, I want you to get the most nutrient-dense food for that dollar. And we're going to talk a lot about that today. So there's a lot of things that you don't need to buy that are healthy, and we'll go through those. And so you may not need to go buy that superfood or that most expensive supplement. And I really want to just make sure that if you are spending money on healthy food, that you're getting the most value out of that. So spending your money on wisely when you are investing. All right, so let's get in, now that we have a little bit of mindset behind why it is that we want to buy healthy food and why it is that how it affects our health with the hidden costs. I really want to get into giving you some tips and tools that you can get started on today. So here are some budget tips for grocery shopping. So the first tip that I have is plan ahead. I'm sure that you've heard this before, but the reason why I recommend to plan ahead is that when you plan ahead, you have a good idea of what foods you need for the week. You also don't spend as much time in the grocery store. So your time is money, and you could be spending your time on a lot of other things rather than spending a ton of time in the grocery store or going back to the grocery store 5 or 6 times during the week. So really planning ahead helps you to save time, but it also helps to prevent wasting food. And when you waste food, it's like throwing money down the drain. So I'm sure you've had the experience where maybe you've bought some fresh fruits and vegetables, and before you even get to them, they go off or they're rotten. And that's a waste, and that's frustrating when that happens. So if you plan ahead and you know what meals you're going to make during the week and you commit to that, then you're not going to be wasting food. You're also going to buy the items specifically that you need for what you're going to make. So I see a lot of people going to the store and buying the same things over and over again, but they might not use those things or might not need all of those ingredients if they were to plan ahead. I also recommend to bring a shopping list with you. This will help you to stay focused and on task. The grocery store and the food industry is very intelligent. They have laid out the grocery store specifically to catch your eye with different things. They're called point of sales. So that impulse buy when you're standing in the line to check out and you've got candy on one side, you've got magazines on the other side, you've got maybe some other items like chapsticks and things like that, those are called impulse buys. So if you're standing in the checkout line and buying $2, $3, $5 every single time, those are things that you didn't intend to buy. They weren't on your shopping list, but you're buying them because they're there. And that's a marketing tool that's coming towards you, and that is intended to do that, to get you to buy more while you're at the store. The other thing that the grocery industry does is they will place high valued items or items that most people get towards the back of the store. So if you look at most grocery stores, the milk and the bread are usually the farthest away from the door. And so that means you have to walk through aisles to get to it, which means your eyes are going to see a lot of different things before you actually get to the item that you want to get to. So having a shopping list with you will really help you to stay on task, and it will help prevent you from buying things that you don't actually need or that you weren't intending to buy. And the last piece is avoid shopping while hungry. So if you're planning ahead, you'll know that you want to have a snack or something with you just in case you are going to the grocery store after work and you want to eat something before you go, because most likely when you're hungry, this happens to me as well, if you're in the grocery store, it's a lot more tempting to buy more things when you're hungry. Your brain thinks differently about food and what you're buying when you're standing there hungry versus when you don't have that hunger feeling in your body. So that's a little bit about planning ahead. Our tip number 2 is buying foods that are in season. So if you're the type of person who likes to buy berries or apples all year round, you might notice that the price changes at different times during the year. So let's say, for example, if you're buying berries and you're buying them in the summer, you're most likely going to pay between $3 to $5 per pint or per container. Now, if you buy that same exact size pint or container in the winter, since berries are not in season, they're actually going to be closer to $8 to $11 if they're not in season. And that's because when there is more fruit available, so when the fruit is in season, the farmers have more of it and they want to get rid of it quickly. And so they drop the price so that it's more affordable. And when they don't have as much product available or fruit available, then the price is going to be higher because there's more demand for it. There's more people that want it and there's less product available. So the price has to be higher. The other thing, remember how I talked about getting more bang for your buck? Well, here it is. When you're eating foods that are in season, when you're eating strawberries in summer, they're going to have far more nutrients in them when you have them in winter. That's for 2 reasons. The nutrients in the soil are different at different times during the year. And then also when the fruit's not in season and the fruits and vegetables are not in season, then what happens is they have to travel across the country, or they have to travel from a different country, which means that it's taken a lot longer to get to the grocery store. From the time that a fruit or vegetable is picked from the branch to the time that it gets to your plate, it starts depleting in nutrients. So the longer that it takes to get it from the plant to your plate, the less nutrients it's going to have. So again, you want to get the most nutrients. It's important to buy foods that are in season. The other tip that I have is buying local can save you money too. So if you have a local farmer's market, if you're buying fresh produce from there, you can save money because you're not paying the grocery store to stock the item. You're paying the farmer directly. So that's a really nice way to support farmers and also to save some money as well. And buying foods in season, the way that you can look to see what's in season. You can definitely, if you go to your local farmer's market, you'll see what foods are in season. But you can just type in online seasonal foods and type in your location. So I would type in seasonal foods California, or I would type in what's in season California. There's actually a website called What's in Season, and I think it's what'sinseason.org, but you can look at it, and it will tell you what fruits and vegetables are in season. You'll also see by the price tag, if you start to notice or start to pay attention to this, you'll start to see that the price tags are different at different times in the year, so just starting to pay attention to that. The next tip that I have is that if you see some foods that are on sale, you can get them and freeze them. So a lot of times chicken or meat will go on sale and the price per pound will drop tremendously. And obviously you can't eat that much chicken or meat in 1 week, usually if you're cooking for yourself or even for a family. So in order to take advantage of the sale, you can also always freeze it. You can get more of the meat. So let's say it's ground beef or it's chicken. You can buy extra and you can put it in the freezer and you're going to save per pound. Now that is a little bit of an extra cost up front, but you will definitely be saving money. So it's a way of thinking of investing versus, the immediate purchase. It's a little bit hard to spend that money initially, but you will be saving money overall when you look at the big picture of things. Also, if vegetables are on sale, you can make a soup out of them. You can make a big salad. You can freeze them even. Some vegetables are great, to freeze, but I really like making them into a soup and then freezing them if vegetables are on sale. It's a great way to take advantage of the price tag. Also, going back to buying foods that are in season, sometimes frozen fruit is less expensive if the food is not in season. So if strawberries are not in season and you go to the frozen section, they might be less expensive to get them frozen than fresh. So if you're someone who puts them in smoothies, or you can even defrost them and put them in a yogurt, that's a way that you can cut your costs by looking at the frozen fruits as well. You just want to make sure there's no added sugar, that it's just the fruit in the ingredient list. All right, tip number 4. A lot of times what becomes expensive at the grocery store, especially when you're looking at health foods and you want to have flavor in your food, are the condiments, things like ketchup and mustard and mayonnaise and hummus and pesto and salad dressings. Those are things that come with a higher price tag, and you can really start to use herbs and spices as well as garlic and onions in your recipes to give it some more flavor. That will help to reduce the cost of all these extra condiments. Some of my favorite sauces that I like to have on hand that are really easy to make, they take like 5 minutes, is to make a homemade hummus or a homemade pesto or a salad dressing. And those are ways to cut costs. Instead of buying a hummus for $4, you can make it for yourself for $2.50. It's really simple. You can also make an easy pesto by buying fresh herbs and having garlic and olive oil and lemon juice. Those are inexpensive ingredients if you're making them for a batch. So those are some things that I recommend. You can always freeze your pesto as well if you want to make a big batch of that. So the next tip is to keep it simple. When you're buying healthy food, it's really tempting, especially once you start reading about health foods. There's all of these quote-unquote superfoods and the fresh juices that you might see for juice cleanses or kombucha because it's good for digestive health. The truth is that you don't need to buy these foods in order to be healthy. These are extra add-ons, and if you're having a hard time spending money on health foods, or if your budget doesn't match that, a really great tip is just to keep focusing on eating real foods, eating whole foods, eating fresh produce, eating clean animal products, and not focusing so much on these extra items because these do get really expensive, especially supplements as well. Unless you have a specific medical condition or you're working with a nutritionist or a dietitian who's specifically asked you to take a supplement, then you may not need to take it. What I find a lot of people do is they'll look on Dr. Oz, or they'll see an ad or something in a magazine that says, oh, it's good to take biotin because it helps your hair grow long, or it's good to take fish oil because it's good for heart health. Well, yes, those things might be true, but adding on all these supplements and spending money on supplements doesn't replace a good quality diet. And the truth is that if you're getting most of the nutrients that you need from your foods, you most likely won't need the supplements in the first place. So first, focus on food, and then in addition to that, if you have the extra spend, then maybe focusing on things like the kombucha and superfoods and supplements. And if people don't know what kombucha is, it's basically a fermented tea, and it helps with gut health, so with digestion. All right. Tip number 6, look for store brands. At every store, they have their own house brand, and a lot of times they're using the same exact products that you see, but they're just packaged differently. So the house brands are always less expensive than the regular priced brand, and they do that because they want you to buy their own product and they make more money off of that. So even though it's less expensive for you, they're still making a greater profit on that item. That's why they make it less expensive. So at Walmart, a good brand that you can look for is the Great Value Organic. Target, they call their Simply Balanced. Whole Foods is the 365 Everyday, and Albertsons is O Organics. So and this is a good time to write in the chat box if you have any other grocery stores that you shop at, because I'm not familiar with all of the grocery stores around the country. But if you have another grocery store that you shop at and you know what their house brand is, you can go ahead and type it in the chat box. Yeah, I think Costco definitely has a lot of house brands, okay? Not sure what the name of the Costco house brand is, but they definitely have one. A lot of their products are private label is what it's called. Okay, also Sprouts. We have a market here, Sprouts in California. They also have a house brand. I think they even just call it their Sprouts brand. And they also have some good discounts on those too. All right. So I know that not everyone has access to stores that have discounts, and even if you do, maybe the stores that are around you might not carry the best quality products. So what you want to look for, these are some great online options that you can order from. The first one that I really love is Thrive Market. Thrive Market really carries all of the staple health food products. They don't carry fresh produce or anything, but they do carry any pantry items that you might need, anything from olive oil, coconut oil, to your herbs and spices, to healthy snacks. And they carry them at a steep discount. They carry them closer to wholesale price, so what they're charging the grocery stores. And this is a great way to get tremendous discounts. Now, they do have a membership. I believe it's a $60 membership for the year at Thrive Market. However, I've saved almost $60 in one or two purchases. So I know they give you a free trial, so you can definitely head on over to thrivemarket.com and check that out, see what type of discounts they're offering. Also, U.S. wellness meats. You might not have access to good quality meats in your area, and U.S. wellness meats is a great place to buy meats. You can also get the discounted meats and then freeze them. They're still good quality, but that's a way that you can get inexpensive, good quality meats. Costco now carries a lot of health food items. You'll start to see more organic. You'll start to see less processed ingredients at Costco. They're really trying to develop this segment of the market. And Costco has some great options. Again, if you're a family of 2 or 3, you may not need as big of you might not need as much, so you might have leftovers if you're buying the Costco size, but you can always freeze a lot of the items as well. And then also looking on Amazon Fresh, they have some good deals, and that's a great way to get food delivered right to your door, and that can maybe save you time from going to the grocery store if that seems to be an issue for you. All right, and some other tips. I really want to caution you on avoiding the food coupon trap. So a lot of times you'll see 2 for $1, and the the deal might say that there is the 2-for-1 deal is $7 for 2, but if you buy one, then it's $4. So you're technically saving $1 if you get 2 of them. But what if you don't actually need 2 bottles of cleaning spray or 2 bottles of soda, and you only want 1 of them? You're still spending an extra $3, and the reason why you're spending that is because there's a discount, not because you actually need that. So really, really be careful about buying extra just because it's on sale. That's a way to spend more money when you originally wouldn't have even bought 2 in the first place. Really ask yourself, do I need this right now? Do I need 2 right now? I find myself often having to check myself in the grocery store when you see a deal and you really want to go after that deal and save some money, and then you realize, oh, I didn't really need 2 of those, and it's not necessary. So just be cautious of that. You may not need multiple, and it's an easy way to get you to buy more by offering a discount, but you might not need that. So that would be a place where you can save some money, and that's just more of a shopping mindset that we can start to look at. Another place that you can really save money is through buying a reusable water bottle. The amount of money that you spend on plastic water bottles per month really adds up, and if you're buying cases and cases of plastic water bottles, you're throwing money down the drain for sure. And so if you use a reusable water bottle, you can get a water filter for at home. You can use the soda machine at work. They always have a water button, or I'm sure there's a place that you can refill your water at work. But by having a reusable water bottle, that's a really great way to save on throwing out lots of plastic, on drinking out of plastic, and then also spending a ton of money on water bottles. You'll save lots of money. I really like the water bottle called Hydro Flask. There's also a water bottle company. There is one that they have glass water bottles. I'll have to think of the name of it. Good Factory. It's called Good Factory is the other one. So either Hydro Flask or Good Factory are great reusable water bottles that you can purchase online. One of the things that my clients tell me, I had a client who was here last week, and she told me that she spends almost $10 at Starbucks every morning. And that's between buying a coffee and then maybe buying a pastry or a snack while you're there. And Starbucks also has their marketing down, and they do a good job at tempting you to buy other things while you're there. So just imagine if you save $10 a day by having your coffee or tea and making it at home or at work. You can actually save about $50 a week if you're going to Starbucks every day and spending that amount of money. And that money can go to a grocery shopping and can go to healthier food items. And, a cup of coffee might be $3.50, whereas if you brewed it at home, it would be closer to $1, even less than $1 sometimes. So something to think about, a great way if you are wanting to switch your priorities and wanting to spend more money on healthy food, you can definitely start to make these small shifts that will make a big change. Another option is to make a protein shake or a protein smoothie. Use that as a meal. Even though the protein powder itself might be, $40 to $50 for the jar, when you break it down per serving, it's going to be less expensive than actually having meat or chicken or fish for a protein shake, and that's actually a really great way for weight loss and also to get a lot of nutrients in one place, getting the most bang for your buck. So when I talk about a protein smoothie, I'm not talking about the premier protein shakes that are pre-made at Costco. I'm talking about making your own smoothie with fresh fruit, with a good quality protein powder, maybe adding some nuts into the protein smoothie or some nut butter, almond butter, or peanut butter, adding some liquid water or unsweetened almond milk, and then some ice. That would be a great option for a homemade protein shake and a great way to reduce your cost for one of your meals. Now, there's a lot of controversy, or there has been over the years, about that dark meat causes heart disease or that it contributes to heart disease, and the studies that really look into this and show that animal products are not what causes heart disease. It's actually a lot of the processed foods that we're eating. It's sugar, it's the processed oils that we're eating, and that if you're buying good quality meats, that dark meat is actually okay to eat. And what I'm talking about is chicken thighs or even eating red meat. If you're doing that once or twice a week, there's no health harm in that. It really depends on the person. So again, consulting with your doctor. But, the dark meat is less expensive than white meat. Also, ground meat is less expensive. So ground beef is far less expensive than buying a steak. Dark meat, so the chicken thighs are less expensive than chicken breasts. So something to think about, maybe alternating between the two. If you like white meat, you can alternate one time buying dark meat, one time buying white meat, and that can definitely save some costs there as well. I also want to encourage that when you're switching over to a healthier pantry, that you don't need to buy everything at once. You can start to slowly transition to healthier pantry items. That's the most expensive part. When people tell me that buying healthy food is expensive, when you actually completely switch over to healthy food and you're not spending as much money at restaurants and you're not spending as much money on cookies and crackers and things that you don't actually need that don't provide you nourishment, you are going to save so much money by eating healthy. And so really looking at transitioning slowly, because the transition part is actually the most expensive part. That's what scares people. So you don't need to throw everything out and replace it all in one day. You can really take a couple of months and start to, as you finish one item, you can replace it with a healthier item and start to try some new products, and that will help to take away that big upfront cost of starting to eat or transitioning to healthier items. Also, if you add more vegetables and focus more on vegetables than on meat, so having your vegetables be your main focus and then having a little bit of protein on the side, that can definitely reduce the cost of eating healthy. Things like soups, stir fries, and roasted vegetables, you can definitely get a far way with those with a little bit of protein and healthy fat on the side. Those are ways that you can keep your costs a little bit lower. All right, so should we be buying organic? This is a big topic, and this is something that a lot of people are skeptical about. Is it even important, and why should I buy that? What's the reason for it? So my question to you is, if there are any benefits to organic foods, what do you think is the benefit, or what have you heard is the benefit of buying organic foods? If you can please type in the chat box. This is our first Q&A for today. All right. So less chemicals going into your body, less chemicals going into your system. Awesome. Yes, I think that is definitely part of it. A lot of people, when they see the term organic, the first thing they think is just, oh, it's more expensive. The first thing that comes to mind. And, if you think it's more expensive, but you don't know the value or understand why we should buy organic or understand what the importance is, then of course you're going to choose non-organic products. So the good thing is that you don't need to buy everything organic, and I'm going to help guide you through that to see which foods are most important to buy organic. So if you can't buy everything organic, then maybe buying some things organic and some things non-organic. The reason why, I'm going to go back for a second, the reason why we want to buy organic foods is because our food system has changed tremendously. So the farming industry has changed a lot, and so when you're buying animal products, you really want to make sure that they are organic, and that's because they are, if the product is non-organic, then it means that there are antibiotics and hormones added to the food. Now, we know this because the Organic Association, in order to get the organic certification, it means that the Organic Association, USDA Organic, is going around to the different farms and making sure that they're using the correct farming practices to make sure that there's no antibiotics or hormones in your food. It's actually really hard or difficult to get the organic certification for companies to get that because it's a rigorous process. And so they really need to make sure that the farms are doing what they say they're doing. And so, the benefit is that when we don't get extra antibiotics and hormones in our food, it's really going to help us with our own hormone balancing. So we see a lot of IVF and IUI and a lot of infertility issues. We also see a lot of hormone imbalances, things like PCOS and endometriosis. A lot of these are related to hormone imbalances, and that can come from the foods that we're eating. If we're getting little traces of hormones that were in the meats every day, then that's going to change our own internal endocrine system, our hormone system as well. Same things with the antibiotics. If we're having small amounts of antibiotics every day when we're eating, then what happens is it affects our gut health and it affects our immune system. So we really want to protect ourselves away from that. So the number one thing that you want to buy organic if you are going to spend money on organic foods is definitely going to be animal products. And that's going to be anything like eggs, meat, chicken, yogurt, milk. Those are some things that we definitely want to look out for. Now, you can still eat healthy if you don't buy organic, as long as you're eating clean, fresh foods. The less packaged food you eat, you're still going to be better off. So even if your budget doesn't allow for organic, I highly recommend eating less processed food starting there, and that will make a big difference for your health. Now, the next thing you want to look at after looking at your the animal products when it comes to organic is looking at this list of Dirty Dozen and Clean 15. You may or may not be familiar with this, but this is a list that is drawn up every single year by a nonprofit organization called EWG.org. They are the Environmental Working Group, and what they do is they take a look at all of these all the fresh produce, and they do a study to see which ones have more pesticides and chemicals on them. So the Dirty Dozen means that these fruits and vegetables have been tested, and this year, or last year, this is from last year, these were the items that were found to have the most most pesticides and chemicals on them. So you can think of it, the Dirty Dozen list are usually things that don't have a thick peel around them. They don't have any protection. So things like strawberries, spinach, nectarines, apples, peaches, pears, cherries, grapes, celery, tomatoes, sweet bell peppers, and potatoes. So that's the Dirty Dozen, and ideally, if you can buy these organic, that's what you would like to do. Now, the Clean 15 have been tested, and these are the produce that have the least amount of chemicals and pesticides on them. So if you can't buy these organic, then it's not as big of a deal, and you won't get as much chemical pesticide exposure. So things like sweet corn, avocado, pineapples, cabbage, onions, sweet peas, asparagus, papaya, mangoes, eggplant, melon, kiwi, cantaloupe, cauliflower, and grapefruit. So a lot of those, that's okay if you don't buy those organic. So the reason why I like these lists is because it helps you to prioritize. So again, before we even get to this list, the first thing you want to look at is your animal products. And then if you do have extra spend or extra money to spend on these types of fruits and vegetables, then this is what you want to look at as your guide. I was going to say something else about the Dirty Dozen. Oh, the other thing is organic doesn't always mean more expensive. I've definitely seen times where regular tomatoes are the same price as organic tomatoes, or a regular apple, conventional apple is the same price as an organic apple. And there's not always a huge price discrepancy. So take a look and see what the pricing looks like, and you may be surprised to find that it's not that much more expensive. Now, I also find it interesting that back when our grandparents used to go shopping, they never even had to look for organic because the farming industry and the food industry never used to add all of these things to our food. They never used to add chemicals, pesticides, antibiotics, hormones, or at least not at the scale that they're adding them now. So it's really interesting to see how the food industry has changed, and because it's changed, we just have to be more informed as consumers. So this quote is by Mark David, and he says, "Buying organic food is the best form of health insurance. So it helps to protect you from, the pesticides and chemicals have been linked to cancer-causing agents. They also can contribute to a lot of inflammation in the body. They can influence our gut health, which influences our immune system. So by purchasing clean foods, real foods, you're going to be actually investing in your health. And health insurance is actually for when something goes wrong. So we wait until something goes wrong, and then health insurance helps to get us through that period of time. But what if we could prevent something from going wrong in the first place, or lower our risk? That's really health insurance, is to help to protect our health so that we don't get sick. And that's what we're talking about, investing in this type of health insurance to keep you healthy. All right, our last segment today is all about reducing grocery overwhelm. So reducing overwhelm when you go to the grocery store. And I remember when I first went to a grocery store and I was at college, and I was the first time where I was in the grocery store, and I just walked around feeling so confused. My thought was, okay, what am I even going to get? And once I finally get these items, what am I going to make? How am I going to use them? Especially in a health food store, it can be a little bit overwhelming. So here are some tips that I've found over time that have helped some of my clients as well as my own personal experience in the grocery store. And I think that they're going to help for you as well. So the first tip is about navigating the grocery store. I already talked about bringing a shopping list with you, and that's really important because it will help to prevent you from getting into indecisive mode. So standing there deciding, should I get this or should I get this? And that indecisive mode makes us really overwhelmed. It also makes the grocery shopping experience much more not exciting, and it makes us dread the grocery store more because we have to spend a lot of time at the grocery store when we're indecisive. So having a shopping list with you can help reduce overwhelm. The next part about navigating the grocery store is to start on the perimeter of the store. When you walk around the edges of the store first, you're going to find all of the fresh produce and more fresh foods. When you walk around in the aisles first, that's where all of the packaged and processed foods are. So if you can fill your basket up first with the fresh produce and then go to the aisles to get what you need from the aisles, then that would be a great way to navigate the grocery store and make things a lot more simple. That way you're not running around from one end of the grocery store to the other, going through all of the aisles first, trying to find what you need. It's really easy to navigate the store by starting on the outside and then going into the inside of the aisles. Now, when you do move into the aisles, I want to make sure that you're reading your food labels. Now, that was part of our previous presentation if you want to go back and take a look at the tips for reading food labels. But primarily when you're in the aisles, there are some products in the aisles that are not as processed. Things like olive oil or coconut oil, avocado oil, whole grains like brown rice or quinoa, black beans, chickpeas, white beans, things like nuts and seeds or nut butters, healthy granola. I've talked about the brand that I like called Purely Elizabeth. Snacks, some of the snacks that don't have as many processed ingredients in them, and then frozen fruit. Those are all things that you can get in the aisles or the frozen section, and that's the next step, is starting on the outside and then going to the inside and really being focused on what you're going to get in the aisles. And remember, don't forget your grocery shopping bags. I don't know about in your state, but in California, you do have to pay 10 cents if you want to get a grocery bag on the way out. So that's a great way to save as well. So Dr. Mark Hyman, who is he's an MD, and he's also a great alternative medicine doctor, functional medicine doctor. If you're not familiar with his work, he has some great books out about the blood sugar solution, helping with diabetes and heart disease. But his quote is, "I believe the most important and powerful tool you have to change your health and the world is your fork." So when we feel healthy, when we're eating healthy foods, preventing sickness and disease, we're able to show up in our world, in our work, and do what we're meant to do. And we can really make a difference in how we influence other people. If we keep buying healthy foods at the grocery store, that creates a big greater demand for it. And the grocery store will stock more of those items if people are buying them, and will start stocking less of the items that people are not buying. So we really do vote with our shopping dollar. We vote with our dollar that we pay. And every time you buy a healthy item, you're asking the grocery store to purchase more of that, to bring more of that. And then that way we're kind of doing that offset. We do have a say in what the food industry is doing. If we're setting a demand for the healthier items, it makes a big difference. So that's our presentation today. Thank you so much for joining us. Please be sure to follow me. I provide nutrition tips and recipes on my Instagram and my Facebook, as well as on my website. So that's www.nourishedbalance.com, and you can search Nourished Balance on any of the other social media platforms. If you have any questions or comments, you can go ahead and email me, or I'm open for questions now at the end of the presentation if you have any. But if you want to email me privately, it's akrasner@ayahealthcare.com. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in the next presentation.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you, Amy, for another wonderful presentation. And stay tuned for an email that will be coming to you this week regarding this program, and we would love to get your feedback on that. This program is all about you, our nurses, and helping you to live happy, healthy lives. So we want to make sure to get your feedback on future presentations moving forward. So please stay tuned for that. And we do hope that you'll join our community, the Aya Wellness community on Facebook. You'll also have a link to that and a link to our future presentation. So thanks again, Amy, and I hope you all have a wonderful week.